If you're an athlete who gets injured on the regular and you expect your injury to heal in a linear fashion, just going from A to B with no problems along the way, then you're either getting lucky, you're doing it perfectly, or you're kidding yourself. And for the most part, fluctuations are normal for rehab, and it's just not a linear process from A to B. And today in this video, I'm going to show you what a normal rehab process looks like and why fluctuations are normal and why you're probably going to have flare-ups along the way. Good progress during rehab looks like going from A to B, but dealing with flare-ups and setbacks along the way. Often I preach to patients that a normal rehab process often looks something like a stock market graph, where you're going to have a starting point, you're going to hopefully see a gradual rise towards an end point, but during that journey there's going to be ups and there's going to be downs. You're going to have days where you feel like rubbish, you're going to have other days where you're wondering why you're doing this and whether or not it's all worth it, but then you're going to have days as well where you think that you're on top of the world and you're making awesome, really quick progress. So for the most part, this is what a normal rehab process is going to look like. Make sure you hang in there and work through it. And the most important part is about this, you're taking objective data, because for those who take objective data, which I'll talk in a minute about what we're looking for exactly during that process, but for those who take objective data, they're going to have a better time because you'll be able to deal with the downs better, especially if this is a really long rehab that you're going through, because you'll have the data in front of you that shows you're probably making improvements and that this little down patch is just a blip in the road. You'll get through it and you'll continue on to improve. Good progress. This is not waking up every single day and feeling better every single day and feeling like you can suddenly go from doing not very much at all to playing your sport or running a marathon or what have you straight away. Good progress is something that is going to be measurable, trackable, something that we're getting feedback on consistently. Fluctuations are super normal. You're going to have days where life outside of training gets busy. There's higher levels of stress associated with work, family life. Training might not just go the way you had planned, and that could be a stressor in and of itself. You might be feeling a little bit more pain than you'd anticipated, and that's going to be a stressor in and of itself. These are all things that you have to deal with. And if something fluctuates, you need to just stay the course. We want to be tracking measurable outcomes, and these are things like how much pain are you having during training, how much pain are you having after training, how much pain are you having the next day. And you also want to be tracking the numbers that you're hitting during the rehab process. You want to be tracking things like range of motion, things like strength, things like power output depending on the modality. All of these you need to be keeping track of because they're going to show you where you started and where you're at currently, and then it gives you something to aim for as well during the process. So it's keeping you engaged. There is nothing worse than going through rehab and having no goals set and no benchmarks to try and hit so that you know you can move on to the next phase of rehab, or that you know that you're even getting back to where you want to be. The worst thing you could possibly do during rehab is base your decisions off an emotional output or feedback, because how you feel is often not what is actually going on in your body or with your injury. So sometimes you can feel brilliant, but the tolerance might not be there, so you don't necessarily want to push it. But if you're just basing it all off emotion, you're probably going to go harder than you should, and that's likely going to give you a setback through some kind of flare-up. And you really want to avoid that boom-bust cycle where you're pushing really hard, then you're getting hurt or pain flaring up, then you're resting and you're just repeating that cycle. Because in that cycle, you're guaranteed to just be sitting here forever, or potentially even going on a downslide. It's never going to see you gradually climb back to where you need to be from a tolerance standpoint. Definitely do not use emotions to base your decisions for progression. That brings me to my next point, is that you want to be measuring capacity through those objective numbers that I mentioned before, whether it be the pain that you're in during, after, and the next day, or the numbers of strength, range of motion, power output, etc. These are the things that you want to be measuring to help see your capacity growing. You don't want to just rely on pain being the sole thing that you're basing your improvement off, or you're basing your progression off. And you definitely don't want to just be seeking comfort through this process as well. For us to progress appropriately, we need to be looking at all of these numbers together, but we also need to try and push the needle just a little bit when necessary, as long as those objective numbers are telling us that we can do so, and that we're reaching those benchmarks that are saying, hey, you've ticked all of these boxes off, you can progress into the next phase of rehab. What don't we want to be looking for? The things that we're not keen to see during rehab are really, really consistent flare-ups. If you're causing flare-ups on the regular, you're just going way too hard. There's no doubt about it. If you're causing yourself flare-ups on the regular and you're just putting that down to you being injury prone, it's because you're not taking enough data that says, hey, I'm ready to push this hard. You're just basing it, again, off your emotions. You don't want to be causing flare-ups. You're probably going to have one here and there, and that's okay, because that's going to be part of the rehab process, and it's going to let you know that you are pushing up against that boundary of tolerance. But if you're having these on the regular, say once a week, once a fortnight, and they're setting you back days, potentially weeks on end, then you're pushing way too hard. We don't want to see consistent flare-ups. The other thing we're not going to do is just hope that everything is going to fall back into place and we can just continue training regularly as per normal when we feel better, because that's not a proactive approach. It's going to leave you with low levels of tolerance, and then when you come back to training again and you start to push the needle, your body is not going to be ready to handle the workload you throw at it. The last thing you want to do is just wait it out, hope for the best, and then just get back into it when you feel better. The other thing about good rehab is that everything is planned phasically and structured on how you're going to progress. So we do not want to see you just throwing in random things during rehab and hoping that it'll stick. Because again, you either feel like doing that, or that's just what you think is necessary on the day. If something is working for you, you need to stick with it and progress to the point that allows you to progress based on your objective feedback. If that specific exercise or drill is not working for you because it's causing too much pain, or you just can't see yourself progressing on it for whatever reason, then that's when you need to go back to the drawing board and make a change. But we have benchmarks for a reason. You need to tick them off. You're not just going to be throwing stuff and seeing what sticks. If you are an athlete who expects to just have a nice linear improvement in their rehab, you're probably expecting the wrong thing. You need to accept that there are going to be times where you feel worse and when you feel better, but if you're constantly feeling worse or things just aren't improving, then you need to hit the drawing board again, set some goals, set some realistic expectations, and have some benchmarks that you need to hit. Because once you do this and you have a bit of purpose and you see what you've got going on objectively, you're going to have a much better time, and it's going to help you get from A to B a lot more smoothly. It's going to help you deal with setbacks better, and you're going to have a good rehab outcome. So if you want more rehab tips and tricks, please sign up to my email list linked below. And if you're someone who is struggling with their rehab currently, watch this video here, because it'll give you a little bit more clarity on how you can go about improving that.